Lots to talk about, of course, in the macro space. I need to ask you, though, your stock's down substantially these last 12 months. So it's either the market's missing something or they're telling us something. What do you think is the case?
Probably both. But I think our prices, we usually don't discuss being market operators and regulators. So we are pretty much okay with that. We are not too concerned about the prices of our own stock because we are profitable. Our profits have been reasonably good even in the last quarter. And there are even demand supply related issues which are basically what everyone knows about. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on BSE's own prices in terms of the stock prices.
So you think the business will improve then, essentially? And let's strip away, of course, perhaps the speculative part of the market and why perhaps shares are down. I mean, first quarter net income, yes, up, but you also missed estimates. Do you expect that to improve?
See, basically, the way we look at it is our profit is around 520 million rupees last quarter. Large part of the total revenues come from basically three streams. One is what we call corporate services, that is the listings and IPOs. We also have transaction charges, and so these two are our large income sources. Third income source is basically the interest from the money we have in the balance sheet and also of the business. So these are the three large sources of revenues, and we have done well pretty much in all three of them. And so we are pretty confident that currently what we have been pursuing over the last few years in terms of creating newer business streams, that includes setting up a new exchange at Gandhinagar Gift City, which is doing almost $1 billion a day transactions now within a year of its being set up. Our mutual fund distribution platform has become the largest distribution platform in India now. And now we are starting commodities going forward. Our bond distribution platform is now the largest distribution platform of bonds in India. And IPOs, we are the largest, and so on and so forth. So effectively, all activities which have to do with investments in India, we are pretty much the market leaders. And in terms of the speculative activities, we are now market leaders, undisputed market leaders in currencies, interest rates, both. Only in equity derivatives trading, we have been lagging behind, and hopefully we should be able to make some headway once the longer market trading hours come into play.
You know, there's been quite a bit of fallout, as I'm sure you would know, of the preferential access scandal at the NSE. Has it surprised you that Bombay Stock Exchange hasn't had, I guess, been able to seize more market share in the wake of that scandal?
I think, if I recall correctly, in Flash Boys, when the day it came about, the Flash Boys of Michael Lewis, I think he still writes for Bloomberg. And so when the book came out, I was in London and interviewed by Bloomberg. And I was very confident saying in India, such things cannot happen. And I've been proved wrong. So having said that, I won't like to comment much on my competition. But what we have focused is on not speculative activities, which is what the entire scandal is all about. The derivatives trading and microsecond sort of split-second advantages few people get. What we are working on is basically getting more and more people to invest wisely and in the longer duration activities, whether it is in mutual funds or bonds or equities and so on and so forth. And that's what we have slowly moved away from competing in a market which is basically being commoditized. It's reducing the total margin that is available to the operators. On the other side, there are newer areas which are giving much larger margins like mutual funds. In fact, we are also getting into the insurance distribution now with a joint venture with IBIX of US. And so we are basically trying to become more of a distribution giant across India. And last week itself, we reached 40 million customers registered with BSE, which is like pretty large from any country standards.
You mentioned the US insurance joint venture. Are you looking abroad for other M&A, any acquisition targets?
Currently, this joint venture is basically for doing distribution of insurance in India. We have applied in a joint venture to the insurance regulatory authorities to set up a distribution platform where one side will be the companies, insurance companies, whether they are general insurance, health insurance, life insurance companies. The other side will be all the BSE members and the distributors. And they will be basically distributing some of these products in addition to distributing mutual funds or IPOs or equities or debt or debentures.
Mr. Chauhan, I just want to talk about the economy now. You're in a fairly unique position, of course, as operating one of the exchanges there. We have GDP numbers coming out tomorrow. We're expecting 7.6% growth, which in itself is already the fastest pace of growth among any major economy out there. You've been recently quoted in other media as saying India might reach at some point double-digit growth. Can you help us understand a little bit more what your thinking is and why you think India might soon see double-digit growth?
See, there are many, many reasons. One of the reasons is basically cleaning up of the bottlenecks in India. India had a serious issue on tax compliances. People were not paying direct taxes or indirect taxes. And I think over the last 3-4 years, that has been cleaned up with the direct tax compliance is becoming better. Indirect tax, total revamp has happened with the goods and services tax, GST, that has been implemented very successfully, pretty much the only large country in the world which has implemented. And so that portion has gone. In fact, the banking system balance sheet is getting cleaned as we talk, and also a new act has come to ensure that the defaulters' assets get auctioned fast and they get basically cleaned out. And so those are what I call some of the more fundamental reforms that took some time over the last 2-3 years, but India has successfully implemented, and that will give a fillip going forward. It'll also give comfort to the lenders to actually lend and hope that if that money doesn't come back, they'll still have some sort of claim over the assets, and it'll happen faster. Earlier it should take like 20-30 years and you wouldn't get a resolution. Now you're getting resolution in 180 days.